This is kind of a pretty cool opportunity. A lot of people have forgotten about the O'Hare sighting. It was non-trivial, I assure you, and it was one of the kinds of sightings that I think helped a lot of people on the Hill take some of those meetings that Chris Mellon wanted to have with some of the witnesses. It just kind of crossed to another place. They're shooting holes over the airports, particularly Chicago. We like Chicago O'Hare. And so this gentleman, Todd Curtis, has really investigated that sighting. And I'd like you to give them a basic synopsis of that extraordinary event. Can you do that, Todd? Thank you, sir.
Well, certainly. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the subject that was my triggering event to get involved in this. In 2006, I believe it was November 7th, something was hovering over one of the terminals at Chicago. Something that was in the air, that wasn't authorized to be there, that was seen by numerous people on the ground and numerous passengers in the terminal, apparently punched a hole through the clouds and disappeared. Now, that was extraordinary enough, but the thing that got me going was that there was no real official response. Not from the NTSB, not from the FAA, not from the FBI, not from Homeland Security. Something that shouldn't have been there, something that I'd personally never heard of flying anywhere near any airport, was interfering with U.S. airspace and one of the most valuable pieces of aviation infrastructure in the country. And having no response was not acceptable. If the officials had come up and said, you know what, we really don't know what this is, I would have been satisfied with it because I still don't know what it is. And I thought to myself, I'm not much of a national security person, I'm more of an aviation safety person, but this is clearly something that went in both camps, because imagine, if you are a bad actor of whatever stripe, and you see that the US government, if something is flying near an airport that looks like a UFO, they will do absolutely nothing. You're basically inviting people to figure out a way to make something look like a UFO and sneak up to any place they want in the country. Now, once I got upset over my upsetness about that, I thought, all right, let me put on my engineering hat. I've been in aviation safety and risk assessment for years, and there's certain systematic ways to go about understanding what a threat is, where the threat is, what the likelihood of it is, and how you can address it. The civil aviation industry on a global scale has been very, very good at that, really reducing the likelihood of a plane crash over the years, where in the United States, it's been, let me get this right, 15 years since there was a major airliner crash that, let's say, killed dozens of people, which happened right after the miracle on the Hudson. When I first got into the business in the late 80s, the thought was, if we keep going the way we're going and don't do anything significant, by the early 2000s, there'll be a major plane crash every week somewhere in North America or Europe. We obviously don't have that. But how does that relate to what we're doing here? A couple of years ago, I came across one of the many databases that are out there for aviation safety that was, had a few things in it which were, for lack of a better word, UAP reports. Not just any database, one called the Aviation Safety Reporting System. It's managed by NASA on behalf of the FAA, and it allows anyone in aviation, even anyone outside of aviation who sees something that's aviation related, to submit an anonymous report. And some of those anonymous reports had things in them that you would not see in other databases because ridicule, et cetera, et cetera. And I said to myself, wait a minute. This database has been around for a long time. I've seen right now 13 different reports, which I think are classic UFO UAP. And it's vetted by NASA, so they have some experts look at this before they put it in the database, and the database is publicly open. There's basically a way for people who experience things, at least in aviation, to anonymously report something and have it in a verifiable government database, self-disclosure, if you will. Now, I said to myself, has the industry taken advantage of this in the past? I looked for records around the time of Chicago. The entire month, for the entire state of Illinois, how many reports were in the system? Were any of them related to UAP? 0. Same thing with Stephenville, Texas. Same thing with that Missouri Triangle, I think around the year 2000. And same thing especially with the Phoenix Lights. Huge events that had many witnesses, yet there were no reports in there. So now I put on my business hat. There's a marketing problem. We clearly have an asset that some people will actually go out of their way and write and put a report in if they knew about it. One of the reasons I'm here, to address this issue with an audience like this. Clearly you understand UAP, and I'm here to introduce people to the idea of, hey, we have an aviation safety infrastructure that allows us to re-report it. I'm taking this to my aviation community and say, look, you might not know about UAP, but guess what? If you ever come across something that's like totally weird, it doesn't have to be a UFO, it could be a weather phenomenon that you've never seen before. That's threatening aviation. Here's where you report it. And also here, anyone in media, small, large, medium, I don't care. If you think this is interesting, you want me or one of my colleagues to talk about it, I can hook you up.
Quick question. Michael Schratt is a pilot. What would happen if Michael flew a Cessna 172 without the transponder on, directly over a major American airport? Just give me a rough idea what happens at that time.
Well, you have to establish two-way communication.
No, I'm talking no communication. You're not doing anything. You're just flying the thing over the airport. What happens to you, Michael?
Eventually, you would get squawked. Eventually, you might get intercepted by an F-15 or an F-16, and it might end bad, but they'll fly right in front of your flight path first and give you a warning shot, and then it could escalate from there.
And once you land, though, eventually, you're probably going to go to jail, aren't you? I mean, that's a serious...
They'll get your tail number, and you'll get a call from the FAA. They'll give you an 800 number to call.
Well, did they get the tail number of that thing that shot straight up through the crowds? I don't think they did that, right? Okay.